Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right with Carlson, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Garrett. Fife, he scores! Off the face-off! Up it's Eminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it, shoots one, bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski, another jam on the shot, turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Marblehead, Massachusetts.
Welcome to the Calder Farmstead podcast, episode number 66 for Tuesday, December 7th, 2021. If you're hoping for a podcast recapping the agricultural revolution of the 1700s, we are not going to be much help. This is an American Hockey League podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack and the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
He's kind of a big deal, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm
not. And as always, hey, we thank you for tuning in with us.
And if you're new to hear CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to recap some of the matchups in the AHL from the past weekend for you. We both watch a lot of games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some advanced stats to help us break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our YouTube channel or podcast feed, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're newer to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like PDO or the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. I promise it's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes. And let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today being excited that Jim Benning was no longer the Canucks GM. It lasted 20 whole minutes until you heard who the favorite candidate was to replace him. You'll never get that time back. So next time, want to spend a little bit more time with us talking hockey.
Does it rhyme with shark surgerin?
Ugh.
All right, moving on. Let's start the episode with our weekend pick'ems, which was slim pickings because holy cancellations, Batman. Thankfully, this episode wasn't postponed, but our weekend pick'ems, 20 games. We've had normally 31, 34 the past 3 times, but 20 games, 14 out of 20 for yours truly, a 70% clip. Sean, 12 out of 20 for a 60% clip. Another close one. Neither one of us, these past 4 weeks that we've done it, have really run away with the pick'ems, but we are both 2-2. And so the model actually kind of
bad weekend for the model. Yeah.
Bad weekend for the model.
A lot of player movement at the last minute that wasn't accounted for. So I will blame that, especially in Bridgeport. But we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, not a good weekend for the model.
No, 7 of 20, 35% for the model. Again, I win the week. We're both 2-2. Sean still has the overall picks lead. He is 62 of 116. Let's see. I, again, very close, 60 of 116. And the model is 59 of 116. And for kicks, there was 4 games that we picked that did not occur. Syracuse, we broke it down. We dove in, team, individual players, games were canceled. It was bound to happen. So those 2 games, Hartford and Providence, it was actually rescheduled on December 1st, and I kind of forgot about it, but I included it in the outline anyway. And Charlotte at Wilkes-Barre Scranton was also postponed. So,
and I think the Henderson Bakersfield also postponed, and I believe, but we knew that was postponed beforehand, so we didn't pick that one. But there were a bunch of others. And then I think there was another one that just came out that just got postponed. I think it was Hershey at Wilkes-Barre Scranton, maybe.
There were some Wednesday games that got postponed. A couple of Wednesday games. So yeah, Hershey's looking to come back. I think on the 13th is what I read. So
yeah, I think Providence had practice today with 10 players and a goalie. So,
sheesh! Wow.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of the Atlantic Division, we're going to start off with the same team we started off last time, and that is AHL Bridgeport. Who's their mascot again, Shawnee?
The Sound Tigers.
Oh,
that
okay.
is the mascot we recognize for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers. Anything else is illegitimate and wrong. And that's how I'm going to call it.
Wow. Illegitimate and wrong. That's okay. Well, let's talk about the games. Let's dive right in. What happened this weekend? Boy, howdy, what happened this weekend for the formerly known Sound Tigers?
Yeah, let's start with the quick goals recap here. We'll get Saturday underway. Utica gets on the board early as Graham Clark collects a rebound in the Comets' defensive zone, heads up the ice. The Sound Tigers forecheck collapses around him, but Clark finds a lane to Nolan Foote at center ice to break the forecheck. Foote gains his own, uses Seth Helgeson as a screen, and fires a wrister from the top of the circle that catches Schneider off guard. 1-0 Comets, 17-12 left in the first period. A pinch attempt by Nikita Odachuk goes awry and springs a 2-on-1 for Richard Panik and Kyle McLean. Panik gets pressured from behind by Chase DeLeo, but Panik manages to swing a blind pass into the slot through traffic at the top of the crease. Seth Helgeson is just there and taps it into a wide open net. Tie game at 1 with 56 seconds left in the first period. A good effort by Jeff Kubiak, a sentence I don't say often, forces a turnover in the Comets' defensive zone, and he sends the puck to Seth Helgeson. Helgeson fires a shot from distance that was going wide, but Chris Terry redirects the rebound to Simon Holmstrom. Holmstrom dragon curls a wrister 5-hole on Akira Schmid, who can't get enough of it to make the save. 2-1 Sound Tigers with 18:30 left in the second. Graham Clark dips around Andreoff to enter the zone and tries a wrister from the faceoff dot that he whiffs on. He recollects it and finds Riley Walsh as a trailer. Walsh rips a wrist shot into the sea of humanity in front of the Sound Tigers net. Corey Schneider never sees it until it's behind him. Tied at 2 with 2:52 left in the third period. In OT, Nolan Foote rips a shot from the slot that ends up rimming around the boards. Riley Walsh loses a battle with Andy Andreoff for the loose puck. Andreoff seals off Walsh with good body positioning, finds Richard Panik just as they enter the offensive zone. Panik skates in on a breakaway as Foote and Schmelzer are caught deep, snaps one over the blocker of Akira Schmid, and wins it for the Sound Tigers. 3-2, your final in overtime. Sunday against the Charlotte Checkers, an atrocious turnover by Simon Holmstrom at his defensive blue line starts the play for the Charlotte as Alexander True picks off the pass to no one, leaves it for Scott Wilson, who comes streaking in and risks it right into the shin pads of Paul Ledoux, but the rebound comes right back to Wilson, and he snaps it under the arm of Jacob Skarek. 1-0 Checkers, 16:30 left in the first. Off a clean faceoff win by Jeff Kubiak, Chris Terry taps one over to Mitch Vandesample, who one-times it from the point. Bebo makes the save, but Chris Terry gets the rebound in first and fires one over the blocker of Bebo to tie the game at 1 with 14:49 left in the first period. On the power play late in the second period, the Sound Tigers work the puck around the perimeter as the Checkers play a passive penalty kill. Jenkins makes a Royal Road pass through the Checkers that barely gets to Simon Holmstrom. Holmstrom gets it to Ledoux at the point, and Ledoux risks one that hits Bebo in the chest. He is unable to control the rebound, and Andreoff jams home the rebound from the top of the crease. 2-1 Sound Tigers with 3:18 remaining in the second. The Checkers strike right back though, as Connor Carrick skips one past Seth Helgeson in the point and gets a clear, and Cole Schwent races to get the loose puck in the neutral zone. Schwent is a 2-on-1 with Sarah Noel, but Schwent never even looks past and fires a laser past Carrick's blocker. Tie game at 2 with 26 seconds left in the second period. Cole Schwent gains the zone on a power play for the Charlotte Checkers and drops it to Grigory Denisenko. Denisenko cruises down the wall before pulling up and playing catch with Matt Kierstad, which draws Andreoff out of Denisenko's lane. Denisenko then walks into the slot and fires a slap shot through traffic that beats Skarek low blocker. 3-2 Charlotte with 2:12 remaining in the third, but that would be all the scoring, and Charlotte would take it.
And picks wise, like I mentioned, 7-game losing streak. The get right game for Bridgeport was Lehigh Valley. I went against Bridgeport for both of these games. Charlotte and Utica were my picks. And Sean, you did the same. You said, I mean, it's Utica, it's Charlotte, and it's Bridgeport. So what's going to happen?
I mean, I also didn't realize that a lot of reinforcements had come down. I had checked the transactions tracker before we started recording, but apparently not in time to catch that the Bridgeport Sound Tigers got a lot of reinforcements as the Islanders finally are starting to get healthy and get that roster shaken down. So a lot of guys like Hickey, Andreoff came down, not Otto Cuevila, but couple other guys, Paul Ledoux down for this game. So yeah, that was a little bit of a misfire by me. I still don't think that would have been enough to change my pick against Utica, but I probably would have taken them against Charlotte had I known that. But, coulda, woulda, shoulda. The model also went with us, and that was a mistake. So, but again, it didn't know about those transactions either. I'm pretty sure it would have taken Bridgeport over Charlotte should it have known. But, like I said, can't always, in the ever-shifting nature of these rosters, you're going to miss a thing here and there.
Defenseman Grant Hutton was also sent back to Bridgeport before the
Anatoly
weekend.
Golishev as well.
Golishev. Yeah, I thought you mentioned him already, but I guess
it was on the tip of my tongue and I couldn't come up with it in the moment, but
no worries. All right. Well, big picture takeaways. We said in the preview that one of the keys for this weekend for Bridgeport would be to forecheck well and get pressure with their first forechecker. Did the Sound Tigers manage to pull that off, Sean?
Yes and no. I wouldn't say they got a lot of pressure from that first wave of forecheckers in either game, but they did a good job of at least making both Utica and Charlotte work for zone entries. Their biggest goal was to try and get that forecheck to get pressure so they could kind of gum up the works and make this an ugly, grinded out kind of two-game split series here. And that's, even though it wasn't exactly the way we thought it would go in terms of how they would achieve that goal, they did ultimately get that. They played a lot of two very ugly, low event, grind it out, dump and chase kind of games. And that were games that I wouldn't necessarily tipped the scales in their favor, but at least gave them a shot to win if they could, get a couple of good bounces. Now, they did manage to keep with their forecheck teams just from flying through the neutral zone, which was ultimately the goal. I thought they needed first wave forechecking pressure because I didn't trust their defensemen, or at least the defensemen they had on the roster when I looked on Thursday. They didn't have guys who I had confidence in defend their blue line, but guys like Paul Ledoux can defend the blue line pretty well. So that kind of changed things for me as well. But they also used a variety of different forechecks, which was surprising, as teams in general don't mix up their forecheck too much. Like they may dial it up, dial it back, tweak it a little bit, but they played primarily a 2-1-2 against Utica in the opening parts of the game. And then when they went into a defensive shell, which we'll talk about in a minute, they played a lot more passively, a 1-2-2, but they played a 1-4 against Charlotte at 5v5 quite a few times, which was surprising. That was not what I was expecting to see from them, but definitely went to the goal of gumming up the works, making sure teams weren't flying through the neutral zone and making it a dump and chase, grind out kind of game.
Now, Sean, you also said that in your picks, if Andreoff or Hickey were on Bridgeport's roster, that these weekend games could be very different for him. And they did, in fact, get both sent down, as you mentioned earlier, after we recorded on Thursday evening. Anatoly Golishev, like you mentioned, Richard Panik, and Paul Ledoux, all of them were in Bridgeport for the weekend, all of them wearing the AHL Islanders jersey. What difference did that make in these games?
A whole lot. Andreev and Panik gave them forward depth that could actually drive play in theory. Hickey and Ledoux gave them puck movers on the back end. Samuel Bolduc didn't play, and we talked about him in the preview episode, and I'm assuming that this is either an injury for he didn't play, or this is a message sending move of, you need to wake up. We're going to sit you in the press box for the weekend to, get you to realize you can't keep screwing up like this, or you can't keep just going out there and going through the motions. It's got to be one of those. This can't be like the coach thought that Mike Cornell was the better defenseman overall than Bolduc, and that's why he played, because that's not true at all. Mike Cornell does not belong in the AHL in this time in his career, and that was very evident going into this weekend, as he was quite awful for them. But those roster moves definitely shifted the chances a lot, and it showed. I actually thought they were the better team against Utica and the least bad team against Charlotte.
Okay, least bad team. How's that different from the better team?
It's not. In effect, it's more about the quality of that game, which was very low. Both teams played very poorly in that game and seemed to actively be trying to give the other one the game at times. I'm pretty sure Chris Terry was the only one to generate any offense that wasn't gift wrapped by Charlotte blunders in terms of Bridgeport generating shots and scoring chances. The game was a low event, painful game to watch. And not because both sides were good defensively or it was a physical grind, but more just that both sides could not get out of their own way. Bridgeport had 2 separate 2-on-0s in the second period that Charlotte just handed them, and they got stopped on both. One wasn't even a very good scoring chance given a 2-on-0. Charlotte had a moment where Grant Hutton made a horrendous turnover and Parker Wotherspoon basically blocked Skerrick from getting back into the net, and Charlotte still couldn't score on that opportunity. Bridgeport probably should have won that game against Charlotte, but Antoine Bibeau voodooed real hard, and Charlotte managed to steal a game that they were the worst team in. But that's at least a positive sign for Bridgeport, I think, in the big picture, that you managed to execute a game plan by and large of slowing the other team down, gumming up the works, grinding out a defensive dump and chase kind of 2-1, kind of 3-2 game, and came very close to achieving that. I mean, you managed to upset Utica, and I still think outplayed Charlotte by and large.
A healthy Bibeau doing that voodoo that he do so well. Let's go back to Utica, Sean. I mean, second loss of the year. We're a little over a quarter of the way through the AHL season. Bridgeport just the second team to beat Utica in this early on stages of the season. How'd they pull it off?
They contained Utica very well. They didn't try and outright stop Utica. They just tried to contain them. They put a big focus on defending the home plate area and keeping Utica from consistently getting dangerous shots in the inner slot or in between the dots. They did have some gaffes, and Utica pounced on them, but Corey Schneider stood tall and kept his team alive when they messed up in front of him. I wasn't thrilled that the Sound Tigers went into a defensive shell at the end and basically tried to win a 2-1 game for the last 8 or so minutes of the third. That backfired on them, and it's not terribly surprising, is that kind of defensive shell mode of just, don't play defense, don't play offense at all, just, punt the puck down the ice and try and hold down the fort, is not nearly as an effective strategy as it seems. Playing their regular game was working good enough to beat Utica for 2.5 periods. Why are you trying to change what's working? Regardless, Bridgeport's goal in that game was to ugly it up, play low event, grinding hockey, and keep Utica to the outside and from having shots in high danger areas, keeping Utica from flying through the neutral zone, hitting the blue line with speed. And by and large, it worked. They made a couple of mistakes along the way, but no one plays a perfect game in professional hockey anymore. Those are going to happen. And when they did, Utica absolutely exploited them and pounced and created big scoring chances, but Corey Schneider said no.
We mentioned a number of Bridgeport players. Let's dive in a little bit more individual focused here. Who on the AHL Bridgeport team stood out to you, both in the Utica game and hell in the Charlotte game too?
It's okay, Cece. You can just embrace it and call them Sound Tigers like we all know you're supposed to. I will say I really like Mitchell Van de Sompel's game from this weekend. I really was impressed by him. He moved the puck well, kick-started and joined the rush a few times, made heads-up plays in the offensive zone where he'd get the puck at the blue line instead of just blindly firing it on net from distance like so many of his comrades on that Bridgeport blue line do. Mike Cornell, South Helgeson, Paul Ledoux way too often. He actually made heady plays, picked his head up, found a Royal Road pass that he made, found plays down the boards, found plays to the center of the ice. A lot of defensemen in Bridgeport could learn something from the way he played this weekend as how to be a defenseman that generates offense in the modern professional hockey game. Chris Terry was mostly excellent, but he needs to stop slashing guys when he loses position defensively. He took a number of dumb penalties and got away with 1 or 2 others. He did drive a lot of the offense for the Sound Tigers, even though he had the unfortunate duty of carrying Jeff Kubiak up and down the ice as a line mate. It's a thankless job, and for some reason, players in Bridgeport and not Worcester have to do it. But Chris Terry did a very good job of being aware in the offensive zone of not just where the play was, but where the soft areas of the ice were and finding them. That rebound that he scored off of, yes, it's a fortunate rebound that comes right to him, but he also was in a place where there wasn't a defenseman in front of him. He was in an open shooting lane and he found that space. Some good and bad moments this weekend from Simon Holmstrom, who's looked leaps and bounds better than last season, which is good, but also speaks to how bad he was last season. he's starting to find his timing and rhythm on offense as the game appears to be slowing down for him in that regard, but he's still prone to making bad plays in the defensive end that Barry Trotz will staple his ass to the press box for. Some of them are him overhandling the puck. Some of them are just him misreading breakouts and the routes his teammates are taking while he's under pressure. The offensive progress is good, but he's still a ways away from that AHL diploma and graduation to the show.
Looking forward for the Bridgeport Islanders,
Nope.
Tigers.
There we go. There.
I'm gonna keep going back to Islanders just to spite you a little bit, bud.
There's a whole proud sound that is full of Tigers that should continue to exist.
Rawr. Well, what does Bridgeport have on the docket coming up, Lord willing, and the COVID-19 protocols don't rise?
Well, Canada comes to Bridgeport this upcoming weekend as the Sound Tigers have another split weekend. They've only had 2 weekend series to date, which is probably a small reason why they've had some struggles, as you have to prepare for 2 teams in 2 games instead of 1 team in 2 games. Regardless, they have Toronto and Belleville this weekend before rounding out a 5-game homestand next Wednesday against Providence. Fingers crossed. We'll see if they can build some momentum as well. Not a statement weekend for them. More went right, and their roster power has some firepower onto it. So this would be a good opportunity for them to kind of start steering in the right direction. They have a little bit of something they can build off of. They have something that Brent Thompson can sell them in the locker room of. They were the better team through, 5 of 6 periods this weekend by and large. That's improvement, and that's something they can work to try and get more going.
All right. Well, moving on from the island of Connecticut, we're going to take a quick break here. After the break, we're going to get to the series that was between Milwaukee and Cleveland. If you're just here for Bridgeport, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you can get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Google Podcasts. They can all be found at our Linktree page. If you're watching on YouTube, obviously it's scrolling down below. If not, just listening audio-wise, linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Once again, linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We are going to run some ads, and we're going to see you on the other side, hopefully. Stay tuned. All right, we've covered 1 series in the Eastern Conference, and now, we were going to cover a second one, but as we mentioned, the Syracuse games got postponed, so we're going to head on over to the Western Conference.
Syracuse, sir, not appearing in this film.
Correct. Double wick. Milwaukee Admirals at the Cleveland Monsters. So you have a North Division team, so you've got, at least there's that, but former Central Division team Cleveland Monsters facing off against current Central Division team, the Milwaukee Admirals. And it's another pick that went well for us, at least halfway. But yeah, Sean, tell us about the Friday and Saturday set that the Ads and the Monsters had this past weekend.
So let's recap some goals here. Friday, Milwaukee gets on the board early as Cleveland blows a defensive zone coverage off a faceoff and leaves Cody Glass all alone in front of the net. Jeremy Davies hurls a weak wrister at the net from distance, but Glass tips it down and leaves Berube no chance to react. 1-0 Admirals, 18:35 left in the first. On a 5-on-3 power play to start the period, the Admirals work the puck around the outside of the offensive zone. Matt Luff can't control a pass from a one-timer on the left faceoff dot, so he plays it back up to Matt Tennyson, who calmly passes to Rocco Grimaldi at the top of the circle. Grimaldi catches JF Berube way off his ankle and promptly buries a wrister low glove side. 2-0 Admirals, 19:10 left in the second period. Michael McCarron wins a 4-man puck battle along the boards in the Cleveland zone and heads to the slot with the puck. Giovanni Velati makes the huge mistake of laying down and trying to defend McCarron. McCarron easily toe drags past him, continues walking into the slot, and backhands one over the blocker of Berube. 3-0 Admirals, 16:57 left in the second. The Monsters try for a 4-on-3 rush attempt, but don't make much off the chance. However, all 4 Cleveland players get caught below the faceoff dots as Milwaukee recovers the rebound behind the net and gets the counterattack started. Cody Glass springs Rocco Grimaldi on a breakaway from the blue line. Grimaldi fakes the shot, then fakes the deke that gets Berube to bite and starts sliding to his blocker side. Grimaldi then fires to an open 5-hole and scores. Berube gets chased. It's 4-0 Admirals with 15:01 left in the second. Right at the end of a power play in the third period, Tyler Engel goes coast to coast, pulls one between his legs to undress David Ferentz and backhands a beauty off the heel of his stick over Connor Ingram's glove to break up the shutout in garbage time. 4-1 Admirals. That would be the final. Let's go to Saturday, where a lot of goals were scored. Saturday, to kick it off, a drop stick in the corner causes Trey Fix-Wolanski to fumble a pass behind the Monsters' net. The Admirals take possession and go back to work, creating scoring chances. Graham Knott works the puck to Cole Schneider near the top of the circle. Schneider fires it on net, and Matt Luff gets the tip. 1-0 Admirals, 9:08 left in the first. Joseph Lebate gets a rush chance as he goes to work, and as he works through the neutral zone with the puck, he gains the offensive zone and taps it to Cole Sherwood, who gets to the slot and just fires a wrister that Jet Reeves can't handle. 2-0 Admirals with 7:37 remaining in the first. Schneider with a routine dump in as he wasn't about to try a 1-on-2 rush. Justin Scott gets the puck first, but botches the retrieval, and Cole Schneider strips him of it, walks to the front. Schneider tries to jam it home. Greaves makes the save, but the rebound bounces right into the slot where a trailing Mitch McLean bangs it home. 3-0 Admirals, 5:06 left in the first. Cleveland gets one back in the same fashion as Jeremy Davies bobbles a routine dump in, and Trey Fix-Wolanski picks it up, walks the net, tucks it 5-hole on Connor Ingram. 3-1 with 2:55 remaining in the first. The Monsters start the second period with a 5-on-3 power play off a carryover too many men penalty by Milwaukee. That cost them. Fix-Wolanski gains the offensive zone for the Monsters and works the puck back to the point to Emil Bemstrom. Bemstrom passes to Christensen, and Christensen leaves the puck for Bemstrom as the two cross over and switch sides. Bemstrom then just puts everything he has into a wrister from the top of the circle as no one is in the shooting lane and rockets it past Connor Ingram low glove side. 3-2 Admirals, 19:36 left in the second. The Monsters are finally able to use their team speed to their advantage as they catch a good break in the neutral zone as a Liam Foodie chips a stretch pass from Cowboy Cole Clayton to Justin Scott. Scott and Haluka have a 2-on-1, and Scott puts a wrister low blocker side past Connor Ingram to tie the game back at 3. 17:32 left in the second. On a dumb slashing penalty taken by Tim Burney, the Admirals go to work on a power play that's starting to find its groove. Grimaldi wins a faceoff back to Jeremy Davies. They play catch along the blue line, and Grimaldi draws Scott to him, then hits Davies with a slick behind the back pass. Brendan Gaunts is incredibly late getting into this shooting lane, and Jeremy Davies thanks him for it as he fires a missile through the open shooting lane past Jet Greaves. 4-3 Admirals with 7:35 left in the second. The Monsters get forwards caught deep on a forecheck, and Cowboy Cole Clayton makes a misread trying to keep the puck in the zone. Cole Schneider taps it past Clayton's pressure to Joseph Lebate, who quickly finds Allard in the neutral zone. Allard gains the zone but loses the puck from a poke check by Tim Burney, but Lebate recovers the loose puck and fires 2 shots from the slot. The first hits Cole Castles in the skate. The second hits the back of the net. 5-3 Admirals with 14:39 left. The Monsters get back within 1 and make the game interesting at the end as Connor Ingram misplays the puck behind his net. Cole Castles picks it off and passes to Josh Dunn behind the net. Dunn puts it to the slot, but the Admirals block the pass, and Matt Donovan takes possession behind the net. He turns it over immediately, though, and Haluka tries to stuff it, but is defended by Mark Delgazio. But the loose puck is sitting in the slot. Dunn sweeps in and cleans up the garbage. 5-4 Admirals with 10:09 left in the game, but that would be your last score. The Admirals take both games.
Boy, I thought this game had a lot of scoring, and then as before we were recording tonight, the Avs and Flyers went to combine for 7 goals to cover the combined over in the first period. So there's that. Speaking of betting and picks and such, let's talk about our picks. I chose Cleveland on Friday and Milwaukee on Saturday. Sean, you also took the split here. Whichever game Ingram started, you were going to take the Admirals. And you also qualified, if you started both, that you would take the Ads on Friday and the Monsters on Saturday. And the model said Cleveland is a 51.1% favorite in both, not a super high favorite. And thankfully, well, not thankfully, but at least we picked a split because Milwaukee just decided to win both games and just sweep the weekend. So with that all said, big picture takeaways on let's see. On Twitter, you called Friday's game a statement win for the Admirals. I noticed that on social media earlier today. Why would you say such a thing?
That's what it was. Friday's game
yeah.
showed everyone that the dominant team that was there in 1920, that most of the pieces of which are still in Milwaukee, is in fact alive and well. Friday's game was a one-sided ass beating by the Admirals, and one that should definitely inspire hope in Milwaukee, as this may not be the lost season that it looks like earlier on. They did everything well in that game. Forechecked well, won battles, were physical, were finding passing lanes across Royal Road. The power play looked good. The PK looked passable. Cody Glass was a dominant player. Rocco Grimaldi was everywhere. I mean, it was as good a game as I've seen an AHL team play this season. They took their foot off the gas a bit at the end, and Cleveland got some chances in garbage time, but I'm willing to let that slide because, well, garbage time.
Forgive me there. That momentum that, that we talked about, did it carry over to Saturday?
By and large, yes. The Admirals were the better team on Saturday, but to a much lesser extent. They still dominated the first period, and while there was some back and forth and a very bad stretch in the second where Cleveland battled back and found some good spots to, let the horses run, this was still a game the Admirals deserved to win by and large. I still was impressed by the way that they were able to forecheck well, although I will say they definitely looked tired towards the end of the game and towards the end of the periods. I thought the Admirals ran out of gas a little bit on Saturday's game. And even though they were the better team, they still definitely showed that even though that dominant team that we saw in 1920 is still there, it's maybe not the same, steamroller that it was. But this was still a very good weekend for the Admirals and should give them a lot of hope and a lot of momentum.
Well, sure. I mean, Cleveland, was no pushover going into this game. Second place in the North Division. Now, after, of course, those two losses, they're third. What did you see from the Monsters as a team?
Outside of a few good counterattacks, they're not finding ways to stretch the ice and use the speed they have to get rush chances going in their favor. I think some of that is the missing pieces on defense. Jake Christensen can move the puck, but he looks like the only one at the moment. No Gavin Bayreuther, Seattle Kraken legend Gavin Bayreuther.
Thank you.
Dylan Simpson missing this weekend to injury. I have no idea where last season's Thomas Šemić went, but some other guy is wearing his uniform on the roster and showing up. And those guys are being replaced by Tim Burney, Billy Sweezy, and Giovanni Velati. Burney and Sweezy aren't very good at finding stretch passes or even finding controlled zone exits. They're very much glassing out kind of guys, and that's not going to get it done for what the Monsters should hope to do or what they did last season. And Velati doesn't even belong in the AHL as he is bad. Also, I have no idea why Mike Eaves is not behind the bench. Apparently he is trying to coach from the press box a little bit. A reason was not given to me as to why that is, but I was assured it was not a stupid reason. So whatever's going on there will remain a mystery, at least to me, but there is apparently a reason and it's not dumb. But a lot of very questionable coaching decisions in this game that I felt like maybe if Mike Eaves were behind the bench would have gone the other way. Namely, when you're getting blown out of the water in the opening minutes of the first in pretty much both games, you need to step in and do something before the game gets out of hand. The time to lower the life rafts is not when the first deck of the Titanic is already underwater. I thought they pulled Berube way too late on Friday and should have called a timeout to get the team settled and together. They had no answer for the Admirals forecheck, and by the time they made significant adjustments, it was way too late. And that was something that the coaching staff even admitted in interviews after that game, which not great that you admit that you weren't prepared for their forecheck and that you adjusted to it way too late. That's not a good look for you as a staff. More needed to be done before it was 4-0 on Friday, and more needed to be done before it was 3-0 on Saturday, because the Monsters got lucky to get back in that game. Yes, they showed a great amount of poise and finally found some space to, let the horses roam with the team speed that they do have to get rush chances. But make no mistake about it, when you are down 3-0 and you come back to win, good fortune was on your side for at least a part of it, and you definitely cannot count on that. If you've watched the Florida Panthers at all recently, you know that they, a very good team, but them coming back down 3-0 in back-to-back games, not something they need to be counting on as part of their strategery going forward.
Hey, at least they didn't, dump and chase down 4-0 like Tucson did in Colorado on Saturday night. What an offensive push. They just kept dumping and chasing. I'm like, wow. All right. Offensive juggernaut, Tucson Road
Mr. Hyde in the building, sir.
Yep. Oh, yes. He was alive and well in Loveland this past weekend. Let's get to the individual players. Of course, Shawnee, who stood out to you from this weekend for the Milwaukee Admirals?
I mean, Cody Glass wasn't in Saturday's game for some reason, perhaps rest, perhaps injury. I was pretty sure he played his, the last bit of the third period there on Friday, but he wasn't called up, so I got no idea. But he was a dominant player in all three zones on Friday. We talked about Cody Glass a little bit ago, about him needing to step up and show that he does not belong in this league in the opposite direction. Most times when I say guys don't belong in this league, it's because they're ECHLers and bad ones. Cody Glass has just drips with potential. That's why he was a first-round pick. And he needed to establish, I do not belong here. I am too good for this league. And he hadn't really through much of the season, but Friday, he absolutely put a stamp on it. If that's the kind of game Cody Glass can bring to the AHL and to the Milwaukee Admirals, it's one he needs to just put on a tape and hit rewind and repeat every game, because he was a dominant player on Friday. That's what we've been looking for him, and we'll see if he can build on that. Again, don't know why he wasn't in Saturday's game, but I loved what I saw from him. Connor Ingram also stood out to me, but not quite for the reasons you would think. He looked off to me all weekend. I don't really have a better explanation than that. It's kind of just seeing him play, seeing him move, seeing him react. It did not look like what I'm used to seeing from Connor Ingram when his A game is on. He got the results you were hoping for by and large, and I'm hoping that this was just a weird weekend. Every time, every goaltender that has ever lived, if you ask them in the locker room, hey, you have your A game, you're ready to go, 100% of them say yes. But some of them obviously don't. And, sometimes despite your best efforts, you don't have it that game. Connor Ingram didn't look like he had it in either games this weekend, but because he's Connor Ingram, his, B- game is still very good. And he got the job done. But I'm hoping that this is an exhaustion thing, that he finally gets some rest in the upcoming games, as he's got to be exhausted. But I know what their schedule looks like, and we'll get there. And I kind of doubt they're going to start resting him now. But definitely not quite the Connor Ingram I'm used to seeing.
Well, and if I may chime in real quick, we mentioned Cole Sherwood, the acquisition from Belleville before the weekend. 13 games played with Belleville this season, 1 goal to his name. 2 games with Milwaukee this season, 1 goal to his name. So not a bad start. Change of scenery, like I said, oftentimes will do a person good.
I would really like to see Cole Sherwood's splits when he plays against Cleveland and then against everyone else, because I'm pretty sure the best games of his season so far have been almost exclusively against the Monsters, which, that's a fun revenge factor kind of Tyler Toffoli thing going, and I like it. But also I think, if you're only going to really show up in games against one team out of the 7 in your division, it's not really going to do too much for you.
Right. Well, and maybe he'll, maybe he'll muster up some fortitude against some of the old Central Division rivals that he faced off against when Cleveland was in the Central. But we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. But off to a good start for Sherwood so far. And speaking of Cleveland, let's talk about the Monsters. What about on that side of things? Anyone stand out for you there in Rocktown, USA?
Trey Fix-Wolanski was mostly a force for good in both games. I say mostly as his defensive game definitely had some problems that directly led to some scoring chances and goals against, but he drove offense by and large for that team, which makes up for it a lot. I wasn't thrilled with Tyler Secura, though. After feeling what was a bit of a resurgence from him last season, he seems to be largely invisible on the ice. And when I do notice him, it's for dumb penalties or bad play and not driving offense or creating scoring chances like he did last season. I am confused as to why that's the case. Most of that team from last season is still there in terms of his line mates, the coaching staff, etc. I don't have an answer for why he's just been largely absent from the offense of this team, but he's someone that the Monsters need to find the score sheet more nights than not. And right now he's not getting it done. Lastly, Brandon Gaunts needs to be taken off the penalty kill. He was atrocious all weekend, late to making reads and filling shooting lanes, and just overall not active on the penalty kill, not fulfilling his responsibilities defending in that role. You can get away with that when you're playing 5-on-5 as a winger and kind of mailing it in, but not on the penalty kill. You cannot. Plenty of other guys on that roster who can fill that role, who probably want the ice time and the chance to prove themselves. Brendan Gaunts needs to be taken off those PK units, maybe not permanently, but at least to send him a message that that display over this weekend is not going to fly with his coaching staff.
The rock and roll capital of the world, Cleveland, not Rock City, USA. I thought that sounded a little weird, but let's talk about the land, as it were, and Milwaukee moving forward. What do these two teams have coming down the pike that they have to focus on now that this series is over?
Milwaukee plays a weird 3-game series with Iowa where 2 of them are at home and then the third is in Iowa, which is unusual, but okay. Then they play a home and home with Chicago. So if Milwaukee is finding its game, it's at a damn good time, as I'm sure Iowa is super eager to get back to it after getting blasted by Chicago this weekend. And well, Chicago just blasted the division leader in Iowa. So there are, 2 teams that are probably going to be feeling themselves a little bit as Milwaukee comes to town, which good luck, Milwaukee. That's why I said I don't think Connor Ingram is going to be getting any breaks anytime soon, because I would be shocked if that was the moment in which you decided to start Devin Cooley against the 2 best teams in your division. But
yeah. And Cleveland?
Cleveland, who actually isn't a Central Division team, they just play one on TV. They have Utica sandwiched between 2 bottom feeders of their respective divisions, Syracuse and Lehigh Valley, followed by a series against Utica and then a series against Chicago. So let's hope they can get warm against some of those bottom division fodder teams before facing some tough ones. A nice little scheduling, the Louisiana State Mud Dogs before you have to play a big team. It's kind of what this looks like, but Cleveland definitely needs some get right games here, as they have not looked right over a stretch for a while. And when you have a series against Utica followed by a series against Chicago, you need to be finding right, and they are not right now.
Yeah, Cleveland always flirting with the Central, playing the teams, joining the division last year. Yeah, they play a Central Division team on TV, but not this year. This year they're, well, I guess in real life they're a North Division team. But anyway, let's move on. We're going to get to our last quote-unquote series, another series affected by the league COVID-19 protocols. So just one game between Ontario and Bakersfield. So we're going to get to that. But if you're just here from Milwaukee and Cleveland, we want to thank you for stopping by. And we also ask that you do not forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so that you can get episodes in a timely fashion. You can also check us out on social media. Links to our social media, as well as links to our YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts can all be found on our Linktree page. If you can see it scrolling below on the video, I don't need to say it, but for those just listening over a podcast, it's linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. All right, we've got some bills to pay. We got to keep the lights on here, both in Denver and in Massachusetts. So stay tuned. We'll be right back. All right, a little odd here coming back in our third and final series. Normally we do 4, and again, with Syracuse's cancellation, Ontario and Bakersfield, this is it. Heading to the Best Coast, the Pacific Division. Sean, what happened in this game versus the Reign and the Condors? Just one game, like we said earlier.
So let's quickly break down the goals that were scored here. To start us off, the Reign win a faceoff to kickstart a power play. Braden Burke works the puck to Wolanin at the point, who kicks it over to Vladimir Kachev. He has open ice in front of him, walks to the top of the circle, and fires a wrister over the glove of Rodrigue. 1-0 Reign with 18:37 left in the second. A play down the boards by Jordan Spence finds Gabriel Velarde in the corner. Velarde protects the puck well from Luke Esposito, circles behind the net, and hits Tyler Madden with a cross-crease pass that Samorukov fails to defend. Madden taps it in. 2-0 Reign with 15:30 left in the third period. Off an absurd face-off violation penalty, which we will talk about later, the Condors power play goes to work against a very bad Reign penalty kill. Brad Malone gets a pass through from behind the net to Yanni Caldas, but Caldas can't receive it cleanly. He spins away, maintains possession, and finds Seth Griffith at the top of the circle. Griffith has plenty of room to work as Muvarare is slow to pressure him. Griffith gets Muvarare to bite on a fake shot, drags it around him, and releases a wicked wrister that beats Villalta over his shoulder for the power play goal. 2-1 Reign with 11:52 left in the third. Off a face-off win, Phil Kemp fires a wrister that Luke Esposito gets a stick on to deflect. It bounces off the ice, up over the glove of Villalta. The Condors get a lucky one and tie the game at 2 with 7:58 left in the third. No scoring in the overtime, despite maybe a penalty shot should have been called. In the shootout, Gabe Velarde does the Thomas Vanek around-the-world puck wave before snapping one over the glove of Rodrigue in the shootout. He's the only one to score, and the Reign take the shootout 3-2. Or take the game 3-2 after 1 goal in the shootout.
Well, if one series was to go our way completely, this was going to be the one. Like I said, after Bakersfield had a week off, love Reign or me, I was going to pick Ontario. Sean, you did the same. You said Bakersfield was outgunned, and even with the time off, you didn't think that was going to be enough to fix what was going on. You went all in on the Black and Silver Bandits, and so did the model. 50, that would be a big favorite. 56.9% favorite, said the model. And look at us. Look at all of us, humans and machines, getting along in harmony, at least for one game. And the Reign came away with the victory in the shootout. Sean, let me ask you something. On paper, so this box score makes the game seem like it was closer than we'd have predicted. I mean, even shots on goal, 35-30. Again, going to the shootout, 3-2 victory for the Reign. Was that the case with the eye test?
In a word, no. The Condors got a lot of help here from Olivier Rodrigue, who saved their bacon so much, Oscar Mayer is considering a sponsorship. Seriously, though, he stopped 3 breakaways and a handful of good scoring chances. The Condors also shot themselves in the foot with a lot of penalties. There were a few that were just cost of doing business penalties, like we talked about. It's going to happen in the nature of the game. Yanni Caldas' tripping call in the second. But the Berglund holding penalty or the Brad Malone interference penalty were just dumb. It's okay, though, because the linesman in this game had the most raging hard-on for face-off etiquette I have ever seen. I have no idea how in the year of our Lord 2021 you can call two face-off violation minor penalties over some absolute garbage. Drop the puck, you power-hungry wannabe Foot Locker employee of the month.
Dang, Sean.
I'm sorry. And
tell us how you really feel.
You know, and we all know, I am not an Ontario Reign fan, nor am I a Bakersfield Condors fan.
No.
But that was frustrating to watch as a human being. Just like, oh, we're going to fake drop the puck, fake drop. Like, what is this Charlie Brown and kicking the field goal nonsense? Especially, too, like, the first one they threw the Reign out for on the first throw out of the first penalty was absolute nonsense. Like, I was pretty angry watching that game when I saw them do that both times. Like, I can only imagine how the coaching staff on the Reign felt. I'm sure that was one where the linesman and officiating crew learned some new words.
Yeah, I tell you, I've noticed that a few times, both on AHL TV and in person, that the refs have a little more proclivity to kick a guy out of the face-off circle. I mean, but to take it to that extent.
Yeah, just drop the puck. It's not that serious, guys. Like, I understand you do one, you kick one guy out. Doing it twice, though, to try and draw the face, just shut up.
Yeah, and to go to backtrack a little bit, to go back to that second goal, when you have 4 Bakersfield defenders in your zone and you have 2 Ontario Reign players in your zone, you should be able to keep the puck out of the back of the net. But when you have one guy actively pursuing the puck carrier and 3 guys watching that puck carrier, there was a lot of puck watching going on in that goal. That's all I have to say about that. It's just like Bakersfield left Rodrigue out to dry quite a bit.
Yeah, he came up big for them too, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, Rodrigue's a okay-ish goaltender in the AHL, but like, that was definitely a game where that game should have been 4-1 or 4-2, 5-2. and a easy walk away win for the Reign. But he absolutely saved their bacon. But yeah.
Speaking of Ontario, Sean, part of our keys to the weekend for them was to stay out of the box because their PK was so poor and has been their Achilles heel of this otherwise top-notch Reign team this season. What did you see from their penalty kill?
Not very much that's good, that's for sure. They do an okay-ish job for checking, but I'm not thrilled with it. I wish some of their defensemen would stand up at the blue line a little bit more. I wish they would get more pressure with their first forechecker and he would steer better. I think they're better suited to a 1-1-2 than the 1-3 they play, but at least they don't play the 2-2, which is should be, jettisoned into the sun, but that's for a different story. Most of it that I see wrong with their penalty kill are two big areas to improve. Number one, in zone, they play the, CC, say it with me, the check
press. There we go.
Otherwise known as the wedge +1, system that basically every team does, or at least every competent team with competent assistant coaches. Their rover on the PK is way too passive and is not getting nearly enough pressure on puck carriers. The few times that they did get past breakups, it was because their rover got aggressive and went out to actually pressure him, got the breakup, and then got a clear. And it's like, I'm sitting there watching, put it like, oh, see all the good things that happen when you put a little pressure on the guy. Second, when the puck moves around the outside, the guys who are defending the slot in that wedge are way too slow to flex out and become the rover when necessary. That's how the check press works. One guy roves around, and when the puck gets by him, they all kind of fill the void together. And Jacob Muverar was one such player who was consistently slow to filling those lanes, directly led to Seth Griffith's power play goal. Now, I don't want to just pick on Muverar, but he was definitely the most consistent in not being fast enough to those reads. But pretty much everyone who was in that inner triangle was slow to it. And that's with a passive rover. You would think because he's not skating very far, doing much to get pressure, he would be in a better position to follow the puck around. But when he wasn't, they basically left lanes wide open, and that's not good. You also saw a lot of small details of sticks not getting in lanes, sticks not clogging up lanes, and a lot of kind of just half-assing it from the Reign on the penalty kill in that aspect, which that's not going to get it done. That's definitely going to get you noticed by for the wrong reasons by the Kings organization, who maybe Rob Blake isn't watching every one of the Reign games, but some parts of their front office and coaching staff are, and they will let Rob Blake know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a bit of a basketball fan too, and any good defensive scheme at the NBA level, you're going to have guys peeling off when another guy isn't unavailable. It's kind of the same principle for the check press on the penalty kill. There has to be that fluidity. There has to be that motion. And when you have a guy that's struggling with that, like Moverare, it's not going to work as effectively as it could. So let's talk more about some individual Reign players, shall we? How about Akil Thomas? So he made his return to the lineup this weekend. It's just one game, and it's his first back after a long layoff. But Sean, what did your two eyeballs see from Mr. Thomas?
He definitely had some rink rust to him and didn't look like himself from last season. And again, first game back off a long layoff from serious surgery, especially in a part that you use a lot as a hockey player, your shoulder. Like I will absolutely not say this is fact, but I've seen other instances of players who come back from an injury like that, and they're a little reticent to, go and hit guys, take big windups for slap shots, stuff like that. Like in their mind, their shoulder is still not completely okay. And I'm not going to say that looked like what Akil Thomas did in this game, but there were definitely some moments where he looked, like his timing wasn't completely back yet. He was a little rusty in some spots. Didn't quite have the chemistry that you would hope for carry over from last season, but all of that is incredibly understandable. The best in the world sometimes need a few games to get back and turn it on. We saw Sidney Crosby at the beginning of the year come back from wrist surgery, and those first few games back, he did not look like Sidney Crosby, and that's okay. He looks like Sidney Crosby now, though, and I expect, after a couple of games of, getting in the flow, getting your timings back, feeling that chemistry, getting going, Akil Thomas will be fine. I still think he's very much going to be an NHL player, but I did see good things from him. I saw small area skills, good awareness from him in the offensive zone. One of the few guys on the PK who actually looked like he was doing his job. So there were still good things that I saw from him, but by and large, he still looked like he needed a couple of games to get going, because you kind of can't simulate actual game speed and game conditions in practice. You can come pretty close and you can get them as ready as you possibly can, but you need to get in games before you have that timing down, that speed down, being able to read what's in front of you down.
Yeah, in-game experience is invaluable. That's why you play your NHL prospects at the AHL level, because that's as close as you're going to get to NHL gameplay here in North America. So let's flip the other side of the puck. Let's go to the Bakersfield Condors. Who, skater-wise, individually stood out to you from them?
I'll be honest, I had a hell of a time trying to figure out who was on the ice from the Condors with their blackout cancer jerseys that were Korn, as in the rock band, themed. I didn't mind them as far as aesthetics were concerned, but they were basically impossible to identify players with how the numbers on the back were.
I sure couldn't. It was rough.
Yeah, I think even their broadcaster was like, yeah, I'm having a hard time with this, and I see them skate every single day.
Oh,
so,
sheesh.
From what I could tell, Samorukov had an up and down game, but looks to be settling in for more offensive, good offensive moments from him. I liked his poise at the blue line and saw him make some small plays that I liked. That was one of the big knocks on him coming into the season, was his ability to generate offense and how very predictable and poor he was in doing so off the blue line. A lot of shots into shin pads, not a lot of thought into his game. And I don't think he's ever going to be leading rushes with his skating, but seeing him have poise and make heady plays on the blue line in the offensive zone is a good bit of progress from him. An uncharacteristically bad couple plays in his D end where he made mistakes under pressure. That goal that I think was Tyler Madden that scored that went right through him. That was his guy to defend, his passing lane to defend. That's uncharacteristic of his play, at least from what I've seen in his both in the past and presently in this season. He's typically solid in his own end. So that gaffe, I'm willing to give him a mulligan for, as well as a couple other little tiny pieces. Those don't concern me yet. He's also 22. These mistakes will still happen. But overall, I liked at least some of the progress I saw on the offensive side of the puck from him, and I'm willing to shrug off as random noise some of the defensive mistakes he makes that I feel confident he knows better than.
Sure. Yeah, definitely not trying to or definitely trying to claim the North American hockey royalty and not be a false Dimitri, as it were. So that's a Romanov reference. Bunch of people claim history nerd over here. Don't mind me. Let's move on.
One other player that stood out for me on Bakersfield is Seth Griffith. He's really done a good job of becoming a more consistent part of the offense this season. There were definitely big patches last year that he kind of just seemed to disappear and let the kid line take, shoulder all of the offensive weight. And when they weren't scoring, that was one of the big parts that the Condors struggled with last year, was when the kid line wasn't scoring, they needed guys like Gambardella and Griffith to step up. And when Brad Malone was healthy, Brad Malone as well. And there were stretches of games where they just didn't have secondary scoring, and it was a problem. And it was Griffith that was one that was supposed to be charged with that. And I was nervous about that coming into this year when we talked about them in the preseason of, Tyler Benson and Ryan McLeod are probably never coming back to the Condors, and Cooper Marody is by himself effective, but can only carry guys so far. And it was going to be Seth Griffith who needed to step up and be a bigger part of that offense. And by and large this year, he has really done that and has stood out. The curl and drag that he scored on, getting Muvarari to bite on the fake, then pulling it around him, was a nice move. A lot of other little things in the offensive zone. The other one that I don't understand that I've seen is, oh my God, his name just left my brain.
Oh no.
Lavoie.
Yes.
Lavoie is someone who has a cannon for a shot that needs to shoot it more. Like, they need to be setting him up on the power play to basically do Ovechkin things, because he can do poor man's Ovechkin things in the AHL. I've seen Charles Hudon do it. They should be trying to find him to let him use what is just a rocket ship of a shot. Like, that one-time shot velocity is what powered him through his earlier career before he got to the AHL. And them trying to transform him into more of a complete offensive player is understandable, but that doesn't mean you should do it in spite of the one thing that he can definitely do well at the AHL level. Like, feed that man one-timers. And for some reason, the Condors don't seem to either be scheming to do that and failing, or just not doing it. I'm not seeing the effort or attempts to make those plays possible, and they should.
Back to Griffith real quick. I think it's a good thing that he's been so damn consistent. 18 points in 15 games, but it's not like he's having these 4 and 5 point games and then goes scoreless for 2 or 3 games, 4 games in a row. He's only had one scoreless game. He has contributed to the score sheet in almost 14 out of 15 games that he's played in. So that's a hell of a way to step up and help your team. And in regards to Lavoie, I mean, I'm looking at the shot sheet here. He had 8 shots on goal against the Ontario Reign. The next furthest person had 3. But granted, like you said, the quality of those shots aren't playing to his strengths, and that needs to happen more.
Having watched that game, that number surprises me. So part of me wonders if I was misreading him on the numbers on that jersey for that game because they were hard to read, or whoever the shot counter in the arena was doing that, or maybe a little bit of both. But 8, that is a number I was not expecting you to say, because I don't think, at least I'm trying to think, most of them that I remember were not the kind of shots that I would be trying to set him up for. They'd be those half ice one-timers, the face-off dot, basically Ovechkin style one-timers. That's what I'd be looking to give him. Right. And those were not the shots he was taking, which it's okay for him to take other shots, but those are the ones you want.
Looking forward, this weekend behind us, let's talk Bakersfield. Let's talk Ontario in the windshield, through the windshield, not through the rear view mirror, but through the windshield.
So the Condors host the Reign again on Tuesday night. So this is going to come out Tuesday morning. So assuming that game doesn't get postponed, the Condors then head to Colorado to take on the Eagles in a weekend series. The Eagles are slowly getting things together. So it seems like the Condors won't get, a nice break here to try and maybe solve some of the woes that the Reign threw at them. The Reign, after Tuesday's same game against the Condors, head to a home to take on San Diego and the Gulls. The Gulls are also slowly kind of trudging it to get it together. Not a great weekend for them the past weekend, but they're trending in the right direction. So this probably won't be a cakewalk for them, and they probably won't get cakewalks until San Jose shows up.
Yeah, probably not. I mean, like we predicted, the middle, well, pretty much the majority of the Pacific Division is becoming quite crowded with 500 teams, or at least 500 and some change. Henderson, Tucson, San Diego, Colorado, Bakersfield, and Abbotsford are all in the 500s in the point percentage. So, yeah, Colorado, 4-1 loss with Pavel Francouz playing his first game in over a year of professional ice hockey. And then, they got their skates underneath them. 4-0 shutout against Tucson. So Bakersfield's got his work cut out for him. And you always got to love the San Diego and Bakersfield rivalry. That's going to be some fun games as well. So there you have it.
All right. Well, we are going to head to break here. And after the break, we will get to the cream of the crop, the best players from the weekend. If you were just here for Ontario and Bakersfield and do not want to hear CC impersonate the Macho Man to an A+ level, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We have some killer memes that are going to be coming out in the next couple days. So you might want to make sure you're subscribed to us for that. All our social media is not the same. So make sure you get on all 3 channels. Links to our social media, as well as links to all of our podcast places, can be found on our Linktree page, which is scrolling down below now. That is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. We're going to pay some bills. We will be right back.
Oh, yeah. You know what time it is on the Calder Farmstead when the Macho Man C.C. Hockley starts to emerge from his mental madness and introduce the cream of the crop. Oh, yeah. The cream always rises to the top, as we know. And we're going to pick our 3 best players from the weekend, and we're going to see who made the cut. I hope you're not lactose intolerant, because, yeah, it's time for the cream of the crop. Oh, yeah.
My first cream of the crop are one of our Flow of the Year finalists from last season, and one who's had a rough stretch here. I guess he took that personally when we said that. Anthony Lewis of the Texas Stars puts home 4 goals on the weekend. You score 4 goals, you're going to end up in the cream of the crop in the weekend. Anthony Lewis, my first cream of the crop. CC, who is your first?
Well, let me tell you something. I'm going to go double here because we've got not 1 but 2 Czech Republic players. We got the Colorado Czechs. Yeah, talking about a little Czechs mix. I'm getting hungry for breakfast. Yeah. Forward Martin Kaut scored a goal in each of his 2 games this past weekend for the Eagles, and the returning Pavel Francouz 27 saves on 27 shots for a shutout as both return from injuries this weekend. You got to know when they embrace, they call it the Czech press. Yeah, that's my first star of the weekend. Ooh, yeah.
I think I broke Sean.
My second cream of the crop for the weekend is Cole Schwent of the Charlotte Checkers. 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points on the weekend. And those 2 goals were big ones, too. 1 goal that tied the game at 2 in Bridgeport. The other was the game winner at Lehigh Valley late in the 3rd period. Big goals at a good time for Cole Schwent. That is my second cream of the crop for the weekend. Cole Schwent, Charlotte Checkers.
Well, let me tell you something. I got to dust off my player pronunciation guide, especially those from Denmark, because Joachim Blichfeld, yeah, he had 2 goals and a primary assist in San Jose's 6-4 win over the Abbotsford Canucks on Saturday night. Reminds me of when I wrestled on the main event on Saturday night back in the WWF. Yeah. Let me tell you something. The fact that Blichfeld scored the game-tying and the game-winning goals in the 3rd period put him over the edge. Oh, he felt the madness. That's why he's my second cream of the crop.
Last, the top for me, the cream of the crop, Connor Mackey, Stockton Heat. 3 goals, 2 assists, 5 points, 2 shorthanded goals, all primary points. He was the AHL's player of the week, and usually they don't get those ones wrong. I agree with them. Connor Mackey, that is my cream of the crop.
Well, let me tell you something about my first cream of the crop. You know, in the 80s, I went to the club. I went to go hang out. And then there was a Richard Bonnick at the disco. Yeah, he's my first cream of the crop. And I'll tell you, thanks to Andy Andronov, chipping the puck past the defender and out of the Bridgeport zone in overtime, the opportunity to set up Bonnick in between the face-off circles on the resulting break yielded a goal, and Bridgeport starting the month of December off with a big old W. Yeah. The game-winning goal in overtime on Saturday propelled Bridgeport over Utica, giving the Comets just their 2nd loss of the season after the Islanders had just a projected 40.2% chance of winning heading into the game. You gotta love an underdog. Yeah. Bonnick also had a primary assist on that first Bridgeport goal, and that was his first helper of the season. The man must have had an extra Slim Jim or 2 in his bag because he snapped into it. My first cream of the crop, Richard Bonnick. Yeah. Miss Elizabeth would smile down upon him. Let me tell you what. Wow, freak out. Yeah.
All right. Unfortunately, one of our segments got postponed this weekend and is in protocol. That is the quiz. That will be sir not appearing on today's episode, unfortunately. So, Cece, lead us home.
All right. That will be it for the show. Thank you all for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and a number of other great hockey, sports, and pro wrestling.
Can you feel it? Pro wrestling podcasts. Yeah.
You can listen to all those at www.fullpresscoverage.com. We are a very multifaceted website. You can just click the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website. You click it, it populates, it goes brrr, that's the sound of it populating, and you can enjoy. And of course, we are grateful that you choose our program with all that great programming out there on Full Press Coverage and beyond.
And if you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure you subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or Audible on Amazon, please rate and review the podcast. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us improve the show. You can also follow the show on on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at the Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Again, not all of our social medias post the same stuff, so you want to get on all of them so you can see all the fun stuff that we do. Links to all of that and more can be found on our Linktree page, which is linktr.ee/the Calder Farmstead. Big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's AD_dysfunction. CC_DYSFUNCTION so we can make music for you too. CC, where can people find you?
Well, my name is CC Hockley, and you can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL, and at my personal Twitter account at CCHawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Majority of my tweets are about hockey. Big surprise there, but I chime in about music and pro wrestling, of course, and movies, TV, pop culture. But yeah, hopefully if it keeps me interesting, it's not going to be bullshit for you. Check out my writing on the Full Press Coverage Network at www.fullpresshockey.com. Shawnee, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SEANOBRIEN 81. I'm also on Instagram at Sean O'Brien _81. Both those are personal accounts. Mostly my Twitter is hockey tweets, but occasionally other stuff. My Instagram is random things about the world around me, usually my adorable dog. You can find my stats work, including the model that made these quasi-okay-ish predictions this week, as well as other very good weeks. And all of that on my Tableau page at bit.ly/data-dump-and-chase. All lowercase, all one word. CC, take us home.
That will do it for episode number 66. And we have executed it and executed it well. Thank you all for tuning into the show one last time before we call it a night. And hey, as always, we would ever so kindly ask that you keep your stick on the ice.